Chapter 12, Putting It All Together. Well, we have explored many different types of scale forms for different chords. Here is a review of what we have learned so far. We have learned minor blues scales. We've learned modal scales. We've learned major minor pentatonic scales. We've learned whole tone scales. We've learned diminished scales, both forms using whole half and half whole steps. We've learned melodic minor scales, and we've learned harmonic minor and major scales. Now the question is, with all these choices, how do I approach improvisation? I would say probably based on your current ability level, I would start at the top of the list, and as you gain expertise and fluidity, work your way down the list and eventually use the melodic and harmonic minor scales. Coming up is a chart to help you organize all the choices you have. In this chapter, I created a series of charts for you to help organize and consolidate all the different scale forms we have been studying. And as you notice, it has the chords, the spelling of the chords, the scale form, and the notes in the scale. And with that, this should help you make better choices and also have a variety of choices when determining what scales would you like to use against what particular chord. The second half of this first chart is coming up, and you notice it has more options where it's extending all the way up through the ninth. And again, we have all these different options we could use when we're looking at these scales. There are 4 basic types of dominant chords that can be altered. These types of chords usually have a very specific scale that work well with the altered chord extensions. And now what's coming up, I have another chart I created. Now we're looking at some heavy-duty chords here like C9 flat 5, C7 sharp 9 sharp 11. This again is giving you more options to work on. Now we have the second half of this chart coming up. It extends all the way to the 13th. The reason why this is so necessary, I can remember way back when I first started to learn how to improvise, I didn't know about any of these scales or anything like that. And typically if I saw a C7 sharp 11 or a C7 flat 13, I would actually have to think the chord out. Oh yeah, the sharp 11. And I would play a C7 and I would sharp the 11. Or a C9, I would flat the 13. I would actually go in and think like that. And that's a lot of mental work. And if you know the scale that goes to that particular chord, and you've already learned these scales, and then it's a no-brainer. This way you have the necessary scales to go against to particular chords. Okay, I know that it looks impossible to learn and memorize everything, but there is good news. I know for a fact, as I mentioned earlier, most jazzers find a niche of their own selection of scales that they use. As I said in earlier chapters, many of my jazz friends use mainly the pentatonic scales or the modal scales, and I know folks that concentrate on using the blues scales for the main focus of their improv. I tend to focus on using the modal, blues, some pentatonic, major and minor, harmonic major and minor, mode 5, and some melodic minor scale work, mixed with lots of chromaticism and numerous jazz patterns to add spice to the mix. The purpose of this book is not for you to have to memorize everything before you start playing jazz, but for you to use this book as a resource and start performing at whatever level you feel comfortable with. Learning jazz is a lifelong quest. I have been playing jazz for over 50 years and I still learn new ways to grow and expand my knowledge base every day. Every time I chill out or go to the Y to work out, I listen to great jazz artists of the flute, and I'm always amazed at the new things I learn each and every time. It used to be the only way to listen to great jazz was to purchase the albums and or CDs. But now you can find whatever you want on the internet, and most of it is totally free to listen to. So what is your excuse? If you go to chapter 18 in the book, you will find the music exercises for each of these chapters. If you go to my website, jazzbook.com, You will find all the backing tracks ready for you to practice to.